There are hundreds of chords, majors, minors, sevenths, diminished, and thousands of ways of playing them on a piano or keyboard. So how do you learn them all? How do you get all of that chord knowledge into your head? Today I'm going to take you through what I think is the best and easiest method for learning all the chords you need to know. Okay, my method for learning chords uses real chord progressions from real songs. All you're going to need is some sticky notes and a pencil or a pen, a phone or some other device that has an internet connection, and the chord progressions from 5 or 6 songs that you think you might like to work on, ideally in a few different keys. You can find chord progressions for songs online if you like, but you'll do much better to get hold of some of these. Songbooks. Songbooks are a goldmine for learning chords, even if you don't read music yet. We'll see why in a moment. The most useful ones are books of show music and popular songs from the 1920s to the 1960s. These kind of old-timey songs tend to use a wide variety of chords, which makes them really useful for chord learning. If you look at a song in a songbook, you'll usually find it laid out in what we call piano vocal score. That means it has the song's melody line and lyrics, plus a piano part, plus those all-important chords over the top. The great thing about piano vocal score is that you can see the chord changes really clearly, even if you don't read music, because you'll find that the chords are spaced very precisely against the lyrics underneath. So once you know the tune, it's easy to know where the chord changes land. It's certainly a lot easier than using chord websites, which, yeah, are free, but most of them are really hard to read and they're often quite inaccurate. Anyhow, let's say you've earmarked your 5 or 6 songs that you want to use to learn chords, and you've got the first one open in front of you. What do you do with it? Well, step 1 is to go through the chords one by one and figure out how to play any that you don't know. Now, if you read music, you could try to work out the chord notes from the piano part, but that's not always easy because the arranger who created the piano part might have missed notes out of some of the chords. So this is what your phone is for. There are tons of chord lookup sites and mobile apps that will show you how to play specific chords. I really like pianochord.org, but just Google around and find one that suits you. So you might look through this progression and say, yeah, C, A minor, F, G7, I know all of that stuff, but what are F minor 7 and D minor 9? So what you do is go online and you find out that F minor 7 is F, A flat, C and E flat. Take one of your sticky notes, write the chord symbol somewhere near the top, F minor 7, and then write the notes of the chord underneath with the root note, the note that the chord is named after, at the bottom, and the rest in ascending order. F, A flat, C, E flat. And then what we're going to do is tear off that sticky note and put it somewhere where we can refer to it easily on the piano. Then you look up D minor 9. That turns out to be D, F, A, C and E. You usually have to play D minor 9 with 2 hands unless you're playing it in some kind of truncated form, okay? So again, let's write those notes on a sticky note. D minor 9, D, F, A, C, E. Again, we're starting with the root note of the chord at the bottom, so it's easy for us to work out how the chord is structured. Now, some of you might be saying, why not write these chord notes just in the songbook? You can do if you like, but I find that really kind of fiddly and small. It's too much of a faff. If they're on sticky notes, you can use them even when you're not looking at that song. So if you've got another song with a D minor 9 chord, you just pull out the relevant sticky note. Then we come to step 2. All I want you to do here is play through the song's chords, but without worrying about timing. Let's take the first few of them out of the score and put them in a subtitle so you can see what I'm doing. To keep things simple, play a block chord in the right hand and a single note in the left. So we will go something like C, A minor, F, G7. And then when you come to a chord that you don't know or you're not really sure of, like that F minor 7, just check the notes on your sticky note and mess around with them in a few different ways. So we've got F, A flat, C, E flat, or we could play it like that. And then when you find a way of playing it that you like, drop it into the progression and move on. What's really important at this stage, just as important as firming up your knowledge of the chord notes, is that you're thinking about your chord shapes, or voicings to use a technical term, so that you can travel between them without jumping too much. If you do jump too much, first of all, you're making your life really difficult at the piano keyboard, but also it tends to sound kind of unmusical. We want chords that flow naturally from one to another. So you might start off with C in this position, and then go to A minor here. If you look at the right hand, you'll see that I've only moved one note. There's C and there's A minor, and I can do that because the chords of C and A minor share the notes C and E, so I don't have to shift those if I don't want to. Same thing if I go from A minor to F in that position in the right hand, A minor to F, two shared notes once again, I only have to move to that F. Okay, I'm just changing one note. Then to get to G7, which is the next chord, I do have to do a little bit more shifting, but I can still keep this F and just move up like that, so I'm not moving very far. You can jump between chords by all means, but try to avoid successive jumps. So from our G7 chord, let's imagine that we're going to the C chord at the start of bar 5. We'll have a little bit of a jump to C, then C7, F to F minor. Can you see how I've, after the jump, gone back to using closely interlocking chords? Okay, so all of the time that you're learning these chords, you're not just getting familiar with the chords themselves, you're learning good chord voicing, as we call it. Those two things go hand in hand. One is as important as the other. So go through step 2 maybe 5, 10, 20 times, however long it takes you to get comfortable with those chord shapes that you've chosen under your fingers. Remember, you don't have to worry about timing, but do focus on choosing good interlocking chord shapes. Once you are comfortable with that, you can move on to step 3. What we're going to do now is play the same chord shapes but in time. A really cool thing to do here is to hum or sing the melody over the top as you play. Singing is always good for you as a musician, even if you think you're no good at it like me, okay? So just do something like this. Do 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 do. It doesn't have to be super accurate. You don't even have to do it out loud, as long as you're somehow referencing the melody as you play. Again, do that 5 times, 10 times, 20 times, as long as it takes to get kind of comfortable with it. And by now, these chords that you've written on sticky notes should be becoming pretty familiar, at least in the positions that you're playing them in right now. What you're doing is building up an instinctive sense of how these chords feel under your fingers and how they work as part of a song. That's why this method of chord learning is better than drills and exercises. Chords never exist in isolation, they always relate to other chords, and that's how it's best to learn them. In step 4, we're going to change the chord shapes. So instead of playing our C here, let's play it in this position. And again, we're going to try to interlock our chords. So let's go C, A minor, F, G7. Yeah, now if you want to, you can go straight into playing that rhythmically, okay, against a beat, or if necessary, go back to step 2 and just play them out of time first to get comfortable. But really play around, experiment, find different chord shapes to work with. One thing you can do here is go back to the piano part of the piano vocal score and look at how the arranger has voiced the chords. That can be useful when you come across things like this C over G in bar 7. It's a slash chord, basically telling us to play a C chord but with a G in the bass. If you look at how that's written down in the piano part, let's play that, C with a G in the bass. That's kind of interesting. We can maybe add that to our little repertoire of shapes. When this first song starts to seem very familiar, or if you get a bit bored with it, move on to the second song that you've chosen and repeat the process. Go through the chord progression, go through the 4 steps, looking up chords if you don't recognise them, and writing them down on sticky notes so they're right in front of you all the time. The number one piece of advice I give you for making this whole process work is to see it all in terms of of play. I want you to really play around, mess about, have fun, see what you can do with these chords within the structures of these songs. Once you've worked through the 5 or 6 songs that you've chosen, you should be really increasing your chord knowledge and confidence. So pick some more songs in different keys and move on from there. This kind of exploratory method of learning while you're making music, it's how you really learn chords. It's the way most musicians who work with chords learnt their chords. It's certainly how I did it. Okay, if you've enjoyed this, you're definitely going to enjoy lots of my other stuff, so remember to hit that red button right now to subscribe to my YouTube channel, and also check out my books. At the moment I have a great 30% off bundle deal running on my ebooks, and there's also my 6 PDF piano packs available, which are rammed with great exercises, original pieces and loads more. You'll find all the information you need down in the description text underneath the video, so take a look right now. I'll see you next time.